Legends Anonymous podcast. This is your host, Wise Papa Smurf, and with me this week is fucking nobody. Wormlax had a family reunion or something like that, and Ponderous, I don't know what exactly happened. He said he'd be available a couple hours late. By the time a couple hours late rolled around, my old man ass just could not take it, and I fell asleep at like 8:30. I had a rough week though. I mean, to be fair. So we missed each other. Then, family shit happened. I had my sixth wedding anniversary this weekend, so I wasn't able to do it yesterday. So I'm just solo recording because I don't want to leave you guys out in the cold. And it went okay last time, so I figured this is something we can do again. So this week we're going to talk about Pike. Is Pike good? What are Pike's issues? What things need to be done to fix him? All sorts of Pike things. My impressions from that champion, and then the ADC Cryfest bot lane. Is that real? Are supports too strong? Are ADCs too weak? Are bruisers a thing? And we'll go from there. Okay, so first things first. Pike. There just as some basic housekeeping things, there are some bugs that I would like to address with Pike that are kind of strange, and most of them are based around his ult. Uh, the first bug is that if you kill somebody and then your teammate will get a item in their inventory that's worth 300 gold and it says you're cut, right? Uh, the downside to that is if you kill someone and your partner has a full inventory, they don't get it. They don't get the kill share gold. It's just gone. You can see in Pike's ult, it actually has like a what was generated in kill share, like revenue ticker at the bottom. And I've done three or so assists before, and I look over, or three kills that ADC got the assist on my ult, and I look over and I'm still at zero. I was like, well, wait, what the hell? Then I go look at their inventory, it's full. There's nowhere for this item to go. And so instead of coming in like the next time you use an item, it's just gone. Like it's just absolutely vanished. So that is a pretty significant oversight because I mean that's kind of what Pike's kit is designed to do is to be a kill sharing assassin in the bot lane where you don't rob your partner by getting ahead, right? So that's something that needs to be addressed. And then there's kind of this hilarious glitch by which if someone dies in your ultimate, like while the X is underneath them, but you don't actually kill them with your ult, it will still trigger the gold share, but it will trigger it for you. So I get my own your cut 300 gold bonus when someone else kills people while my ult is underneath them, which is awesome. And it happens usually about once a game that, like it'll happen in team fights a lot, right? So I always thought that was pretty interesting how I get like a year cut from my own ultimate. So I'm pretty sure that's a bug, and it can really actually rack up to some pretty significant amounts of money. Uh, that being said, uh, that's just something that needs to be addressed. Now, Pike overall, like where's he good? Where's he bad? What needs to be done? Is he awesome? Is he OP? Does he suck? Like where's he at overall in the skill curve? And I would say Pike fell on kind of a Bard style release. Like Pike's kit, yeah, maybe not Bard level bad, but like not good. Like he needs some stuff. He needs some love. So I feel like Pike is weak at the moment. I mean, I've played with Pike's kit enough to see kind of what's going on and where he needs to go from here and kind of what the problems are. So first things first, I feel like the kit really actually works well together. The Q for mega slow, the Q for like harpoon pull, the E, the W, like all that crap works great. And I really like the ult. It could be like a hair faster, but I really like how that kit is designed and how it's meant to interwork. His damage is actually good early, so he can actually be a presence in lane. But if you're gonna do something, you're in and out, and you're either gonna get that kill or you're immediately gonna limp off and use your passive to heal, right? Um, as far as the harpoon aspect itself goes, I feel like the charge time on that is a hair too long. But if you made it a whole lot shorter, he would be unbelievably broken. Like Pike would be broken if that was shorter. That being said, to take as long as it does to get to like the hook level makes it pretty worthless if you're against good players at all. If you're against bad players, it doesn't really matter because positioning mistakes and you'll still have the opportunity to land your hook. But a good player, when he sees you charging up, will just immediately get behind a minion. So it's not really great in that regard. Um, I have. It's really good whenever people are trying to run away from like a team fight or something, and you can nail them that way. Or like I've ripped a couple of people over the walls. That's really inconsistent with Pike's kit. But that's kind of where it's at. That being said, I think that where we are at in his power budget, building defensively is the way to go. If you're bot lane and you are your support and you try to build like damage, I have not had that work very well. I've seen it work very well in like mid, but you kind of want to build tanky because those items are cheaper and they give you an almost comparable amount of AD. So I think tank Pike is actually good. Keep in mind, you don't get those hit points, you still do get the resistances, and that matters whenever you can squeak away with a few hit points. You have so little health that in the late game you just tend to explode, or particularly in the mid game, it's real bad. You just kind of pop, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like this champion, if I could just build like one, maybe two hit point items and actually have some hit points, he would be amazing. I feel like the Black Cleaver is not very good on him. I know everybody recommends that. I don't think he's got enough stuff in his kit to actually stack it. So I don't feel as though it's that good. That being said, as far as the kit goes, the E seems a bit tricky. Like I've had times where I feel like there should be a okay. So for example, when you ult with Braum, right, it shoots out the line of ult, and the first person that line hits gets knocked up. Everybody else in the line gets slowed. Uh, if you are standing next to someone, that line is like a circle around Braum and then a line, and everybody in the circle around Braum gets knocked up. I think if they added like a small circle around Pike for the E, so that way the stun carries through, like there's like a burst around him when the ghost hits, just very, very small, just kind of covering his body, right? That would actually be a huge quality of life thing that would really help make Pike a lot more consistent. Because there are times whenever I've slowed somebody and they're in the line, right? But our bodies will like collide and it'll put them on the other side of me and the stun won't hit. And so that is super fucking frustrating because it's like, well, there's a kill gone and now I'm horribly mispositioned. Um, that being said, I think he's good. I think he's good in the early game in particular. Like I have wrecked some early games with Pike. He feels real useless in the mid game. And even through the late game, he just like he scales so poorly because he's so targetable. Like you don't have that fizz level escape or like Katarina's mobility or anything like that to really get away, right? The only thing you can do is ult back out to the front line. Okay, so here's little Pike tips and tricks. if you ult somebody to death, you get that ult reset, right? Okay, well that's great. You should obviously like just keep stacking on the next lowest health person and so on and so forth. Try to kill their entire team, right? Maybe. Sometimes it's better to use your ult and then use your next charge of your ult as an escape. So anytime you hit someone with your ultimate, Pyke will teleport to the center of the X. So I have used my ult to kill a high priority target and then immediately ulted forward back out to their tank. So I essentially just jump out of the fight right away before they can counterburst me. And then I'll hook the tank back or slow the tank or stun the tank. It doesn't really matter. But, you just get them all in there, right? And then you're in and you're out. That is really Pyke's only kind of relatively instantaneous escape. His W, sure, it gives you like instant camouflage, but that doesn't work if you're within any kind of range of anyone, right? And Pyke's ult does not make him untargetable, and it takes a while to get that animation off. I have died so many times in during the animation of that ultimate. Like that could be something that could be another potential buff that they could throw his way that would really kind of help his execution is the ability to like go untargetable after a very short period of time with his ult, or just speed up the animation of it would be amazing. But anyway, uh, yeah, those kind of things are like he feels fun to play. He feels strong to play in the early game. You can really crush, and when you do crush, your ADC gets immediately stronger, right? That being said, if you don't crush, he sucks. Like he feels terrible if you don't rip apart your lane opponent. And if your ADC goes passive, you just can't do anything with that. I mean, there's nothing you can do. He's an assassin. He's got to be played like a kill lane style. And if you don't play that style, then you don't need to be playing this champion. Okay. As far as other strengths of his kit, his roaming is fucking incredible. Like he is as scary or scarier than Blitzcrank in a roam. Just because you can come in completely unseen, dodge wards, get behind somebody, and then oh my god, they just realize I'm in a shitstorm and they have to flash. And if you play it right, you can use your E to make them flash, and then after they flash, you harpoon their ass backwards. And then they've busted a flash, and it's you and your mid. And you do damage with your auto. I mean, your autos do legit damage. So, yeah, that can totally work. Um, yeah, he's fucking terrifying in that regard. Uh, as to kind of where I think he needs improvements, he needs more base hit points, like just a few, like even 300 would be good. Because right now he's too exploitable, and it feels like Bard to a certain degree in that like Bard had this amazing kit design where he's gonna roam and he's gonna do all this stuff, and he's got stun. He go through walls. Oh, he's so fast when he picks up chimes. He's such a great roamer. And then like when he first got there, he would just fucking explode because he had no hit points or tankiness. And he felt like a champion that needed it. Like he needed tankiness. And then over time, they started adding in those base stats, and it was like, damn, Bard got good. And then they just kept piling on ludicrous amounts of damage onto his kit, and it's like, oh, okay, I'll take that. He's pretty good. Pyke's already got that damage. The problem is Pyke is so made out of glass that like you better get off all your shit, and you're pretty much gonna die for it when you do. Like there's no way out. There's really not. Like yeah, maybe if you can get an ult off on somebody and do some tricky shit, and then if you get the movement speed from the camo and you get out of people's range, then maybe you can get away. But if you're going into the shit, you're not coming out. I mean, that's not in his kit. So yeah, all that said, it It feels like it. It was my wet dream of a champion to have a support main that I could play as, or support champion that I could play as an assassin. I think Pike still does that. It's the kid is so fun to play. I really enjoy it, but there are some issues. There are some issues that really need to be dealt with in terms of either base stats, or like little kit buffs like quicker charge Q, or area like circle around your body, or like if you're on top of somebody, like if your physical body is touching their physical body, then when the shadow comes back to you, it should still proc the stun. Or, like what I said about the ult, like a little bit quicker, like maybe even just a quarter second would make a huge difference in how that plays to make him really good. Um, but yeah, now Pike is really like I'm really excited. It's kind of the opposite of Zoe, because like Zoe, I saw that kit and I'm like, oh, this sucks. Like this kit, it's either gonna be stupidly broken or it's gonna do nothing. And there's really no middle ground because she has like essentially one damage ability, like, and then another ability that doesn't do a lot of damage in and of itself, but really amps up your one damaging ability that's on like a low cooldown. Okay. Um, this kit sucks, right? Pike, but the numbers were stupid. Pike, I feel like, wow, this kit's really awesome, and this is totally a balanceable kit, but the numbers are really stupid the opposite direction. Like, he doesn't have enough numbers. He needs his base health brought up, maybe just even 200 hit points over the course of 18 levels. Early, I think it's fine. Late, it needs to scale a little better, particularly the mid game. Like, his mid game is atrocious. And you don't get enough in the early game or in the late game to justify having such a mid game trough like that. Like, it feels like Shaco, only worse. Because, like, Shaco can do stuff even in the mid game. He can wreck the early game. But, like, Pike isn't as strong as Shaco is in the early game. I mean, he's pretty close, I guess. But he's not that strong in the early game. And in the mid game, he just falls off completely. And then in the late game, he's just maybe a little bit better because you can still kind of pop somebody. But even then, meh. So I don't know, guys. That's kind of my impression of Pike, having played around 15, 20 games, or I don't know, whatever it takes to get to mastery 3.5, 4, or whatever I'm at. Um, I feel like I've got a pretty good handle on him. There are some tips and tricks I think are pretty cool that I've figured out by digging with him, and one of those is you can use your E as a gap closer. Well, you're supposed to use your E as a gap closer and try to stun the person, right? Uh, you can use your E and then ult immediately behind them where the X hits on one side and the center of the X is behind them. And you will get an instant stun off that way, potentially on a group of people in a team fight. Because you E dash forward, ult, teleport behind them, and then the ghost comes through and stuns everybody. You do a quick Q, not the charge up, to do kind of an AoE damage slow, and then you get the fuck out of there because you're probably going to die if you even breathe. So that's something you can do. It's like a super gap closing stun initiation combo. I've already told you guys about using X as a quick TP, or using the X, the ult, as a quick TP to get back out if you get that important reset kill. Here's another thing: if you get a solo kill with X, right? Like, you go in, you kill the mid laner, you dump off a bunch of gold to your mid, and you're like, top of the morning to you, right? And you have all these Targon stacks. Uh, ult the wave. Just ult the wave. You got a free cast for the next 20 seconds. Uh, Fine. Ult the wave. You got nobody else to cast it on. There's no point in letting it expire. You do some wave clear with it. You know. Um, okay. I think. By the way, the other tip and trick is you can use your E, your W for the movement speed after you use the E to get a little bit longer distance out of your E. And so, that actually gives you a little bit sneaky amounts of engage range if you do the E first, then W. Um, so enjoy that. Enjoy those tips and tricks. That being said, I want to take some time to talk about kind of what. Okay, so I read a Reddit post the other day, and all the ADCs are complaining. Oh my God, ADCs are unplayable. Woe is us. Like life is impossible now, right? And I mean, I feel for them. I do, but because they're super weak early, and they're saying supports are super strong. Okay, that's fine. And then this guy made the statement that, yeah, it's bullshit that supports are so strong in laning phase because, whoever, it's a support game and the ADCs have no choice. They can't do anything, blah, 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 blah. And they're useless, and then they're useless all the way through the game because they have no base stats, and Riot has screwed them, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. There is some truth to that. I feel like ADCs are on the weaker end of where they should be. That being said, it is a truly dramatic overreaction that people are playing bruisers in the bot lane. Bruisers in the bot lane kill lanes are good because low base health makes it possible to execute somebody quicker, right? So if you think about like a Pantheon or somebody like that, or like an Aurelia or whatever, that's going to be a bruiser and also has that boom boom potential, then that can realistically work in a bot lane. That's always worked in a bot lane. Why haven't we always done that? Because it scales like shit. And that's the whole point of ADCs, is that they scale into the late game. And there's really no point in this game where an ADC should be strong at every position, like at every point in the game, right? Like there are early game ADCs that fall off later, like Draven, like Lucian, like these guys are supposed to be the lane bullies of the bot lane that become more and more difficult to play as the game goes on. And I feel like every ADC wants every ADC players wants all the ADCs to kind of have that baseline of strength where I'm relevant early. Like I can do damage, I can do stuff. Look at me, I can play aggressive with any ADC I so choose. And then I'll scale into a late game monster too. But you shouldn't. Like that's the trade-off of what your champion is, right? Like if Nasus started the game able to fight anyone at level 1 through 5, then Nasus would be totally broken. Or if Viger could lane against any other mid laner without trouble in the early part of the early game, then yeah, Viger would be fucking broken. Because that champion scales so fucking hard that there would be no reason not to pick it because it's good all over the place, right? ADCs have always been that. You've always been the you're weak early, let me hold your hand, let me do the work, and then, let me see if I can feed you like a baby child, and then you grow up, you go to college, you get a degree, and then you kick some ass. And that's the course of the game. That's what your role was designed to do. That has never been a problem before. Nothing changed about the mechanical requirements. You're just glassier early. And do I think that that was good? No, I really don't. I don't like I don't feel like this was an enormously successful update with ADCs. I didn't think they were oppressively strong this season anyway. I mean, it wasn't like ADC in 2017, but they weren't like a problem. It wasn't a problem at all. Now, I know that supports have gotten some chain buffs, and those, just to explain kind of what those are, is, we've had support mage damage buffs, and then that was, everybody didn't really bitch about that last year, but now we're bitching about it. And the reason we're bitching about it now is because the Dorn's Ring changes gave everybody who also happens to play support, like every mage champion mid that happens to play support, got an enormous MP5 boost. So it's really a lot harder. You got and a bigger mana pool to start. So it's a lot harder to just run out of resources because that used to be what was Brand's problem. Is Brand hit like a fucking truck, but like he had like three punches. He was like the butterbean of supports. Like, don't let that dude hit you in the face, but also he weighs like 400 pounds. He's like the king hippo of professional boxing. Do not let him punch you, right? If he tries to punch you, dodge it, punch him in the X on his stomach, his pants will fall down, and then he won't be able to get back up, right? That was Brand. And he only had so many spells. Now he's got more, and he doesn't really have to worry about nuking your face off. That's what's making mage support strong right now. Like that's what's doing it is the mana regen and the base damages. It's not the support gold generation item. That's not what it is. It's not that we have too much gold. It's not that, and this is what really pissed me off, is that, oh, support's the easiest lane to carry out of right now. Okay, one, that's not true. Objectively, that is not true. Support has always been the carry without resources lane. That is still true. That is still a skill, is learning to dominate a 2v2 matchup with no damn resources. Right now you have no resources but good base values, good base damages, right? If you get behind, you're still not getting any resources and you're still not going to be super relevant throughout the game, but hey, support so strong. Like this is Reddit dick yanking circle jerk horse shit to the extreme. And I'm not saying that as a support main. I actually think mage supports are too strong. I thought whenever the Dorn's Ring buffs came out, I was like, oh, that's going to really disrupt a whole lot of bot lane shit because these guys are going to be real strong. Oh well, we'll see how it goes, right? But just to give you an idea, I play every support I play, like all my favorite supports are in the bottom half of the support win rates right now. And I'm fine. I feel like it's fine where we're sitting right now. Do I think mage supports are too powerful? Yeah, particularly like Brand. And he feels real good. Zyra feels real strong. These guys are all trouble. Like all of those are trouble. But I don't think it is such that it's like, oh my god, it's so unplayable because supports are so strong, and oh, it's so easy to carry with supports. Like, that's just not true. It's just not true because nothing has really changed about the dynamic except you're stronger in lane. And stronger in lane as a support doesn't mean carries the game easily, right? And those two things don't mean the same thing. So, I was talking to somebody about this, like what it means to carry as a support versus what it means to carry as a solo laner. They're entirely different skill sets. Like a support, like I said, it's no economy. You are setting somebody up through utility. You're enabling somebody else to carry through whatever advantages that are out there, right? So like, oh, you have a really good shield, or you have a really good disengage, or you save them from the final hit like by rooting somebody or hooking them or flaying them or boxing them or whatever, so they can't get to your carries, so your carries can continue to do damage. Like, good job, guy, right? You don't just go into a game and blow everybody up. It's not like a mid laner, right? In certain degrees, it kind of is, like if you play Brand or whatever. But even if you play something like Zyra, you better hit a clutch root. Your ult better be used probably to disengage or to engage a really good team fight. And yeah, you do a shit ton of damage. That's why she's kind of a problem. But like Brand or those guys, like also still a little bit of a problem. But you're not just gonna take over the game. More than likely, I mean, you can. It's possible. I've done it, but it takes really butt crushing somebody to do that, right? It's not like mid where you're gonna get ahead and you're gonna have farm and you're gonna have all this shit. It doesn't matter how good your support item is. Like the 10 or 15 gold that I'm going to get off of my support item does not keep up with your CS. It never will. Ever. Right? Even if I fucking crush, it never will. And, I still have to make sure my ADC isn't totally fucking useless. So, yeah. No, it's never going to make a difference. The problem is not support gold generation. It's not support items being too strong. In fact, it's not the fact that we don't have to pay for Sightstone anymore, and therefore we have 800 more freed up bucks, because that's not it either. It's because that Sightstone thing is a whole nother issue I've bitched about 100 times, but I would love to have it back. By the way, I'd love to be able to buy a Sightstone. But anyway, it's that when you play mid, you can crush, you can steamroll, you can get resources, and you can carry. In bot lane, you can do a lot because of the shielding and healing items that are probably the most frustrating thing. Like the thing that league players hate the most is the oh, you were going to do something really cool. No, you aren't. Buttons, right? It's oh, Janus shield. Oh, monsoon, disengage. Oh, tornado, another disengage. Oh, when you thought you were out of that, you got slowed. Oh, my shield's back up. That drives people insane that play assassin style champions. They hate it, and they should, because it's like those are anti-fun mechanics. Like, oh look, I did something cool. I got a catch. I did this, and now I'm disengaged. Well, fuck. Or it's like playing against Soraka. It's like, oh yeah, we did 90% damage. Woohoo. Oh, look, they're back up to 100% because we didn't engage on the Soraka. Why do we have to engage on the Soraka? I get it, right? I get it that those are not fun champs. And I think that the items are probably too skewed, that you can heal too big, you can shield too big, Airy makes it worse. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, I get it. I get why those champions are problems, right? But those champions, there's always going to be that in League. There's always going to be shield. There's always going to be heal. I kind of wish they would take Soraka out of the game or rework her to where she wasn't just a white mage. That would be super awesome, but they won't. So here we are. All that said, this like the ADC bitch fest and what that means on support, like our support's too strong. Like, no, you just feel weaker. You feel weaker because you got nutted in the early game, and supports didn't. So they stayed at the same level of strength that they have been for the last several patches. And while certain supports are too strong and have annoying mechanics that are fine in small bunches, but then whenever they have annoying mechanics and their shields are huge, that's a problem. And yeah, no, Riot hasn't addressed that. But that has literally very little to do with how shitty your early game is. And do I think bruisers are the new meta? Do I think everybody should play bot lane Vlad? Like, I have not seen that shit. I have not seen that shit in Diamond solo queue games. I have not. So I feel as though the overarching effect, I feel like the pros here are off. Like they're off the LCS. They're playing to play. They're having fun, expressing discontent with a meta, saying, "Hey, look at this shit. I could play Vlad bottom and it would work." Her. This is not what's happening in the LCS. I don't see this happening in the LCS. I think there has been a trend like towards people are picking this up as like a niche thing. It is hardly the meta. And I have not seen just the absence of ADCs that Reddit would have you to believe exists. That being said, yeah, ADCs are all around weaker. Okay, I don't think that was necessary. I think that's probably bad. It should probably be fixed. But it doesn't really have a lot to do with supports. Supports are strong. They could be knocked down a hair, some of them. Tanks could be buffed up a bit. Face of the Mountain fucking sucks. And I think that's why a lot of the tanks are having issues, is because their support item sucks. It's impossible to stack that piece of shit so you can get your sightstone. Like the time differential, you can almost always get the blue support item uh, to award like the quest complete is at like 8 or 9 minutes. The picking up the coins is like 11 minutes. From ancient coin. Targon's is 13 to like 17 or 18 minutes, depending on if your ADC will let you CS. Like you have to actually have to have melee ones. Like Thresh gets so fucked on that. I've just completely gone away from taking that item, even though I think it's way better on him. But regardless, that's an aside. But yeah, like I said, I think that this meta and like everybody, oh my god, bruisers are the thing. No, they're not. They're really not. It's an overreaction. It's people dicking with you. Look at I'm a cutie pie is like 3 and 18 or something with bruisers in the bot lane. It hasn't really been working. It is smoke and mirrors joke to express discontent with what the patch has done. Do I like what the patch has done? No. I think Essence Reaver is weird. I kind of like the idea of it, but I don't know how you're going to make that be a functional item in League. Like, not with champions like Lucian. I don't think it's possible. Um, you know, I, Realistically, I think that I don't know that I love the direction League is taking. And when you see this much dissatisfaction on a daily basis, you should really pay attention to that if you're Riot, right? I don't. Some of the directions that they're taking, like they've suggested they have an interest in bringing back like more of a solo carry, where you can actually dominate someone and then transition that into a game win easier mechanics, like abandoning a lot of the like save me mechanics and things like that. That's fantastic. I like that direction. I like going back to more of the direction it was in season 3. That being said, we're not there yet. They haven't really introduced too many of those mechanics other than like localized tower gold stuff. But that didn't used to exist in season 3 at all. So you're like going back is like going back 30% from 100 when it used to be 0. So now it's 70%. Not really cutting it. And I do think the Riot Balance team has made a lot of mistakes lately. I think it's also, I mean, they're shaking up a lot of stuff. So I get it. And, it's usually when Riot does something like this, everything is fucked for about a month and a half. They get some data, they fix the big offenders, they never fix some things that they realistically should, and their eyes just get stuck elsewhere. It's weird. It's like a kid. Yeah, have you ever like looked at somebody who has like a lazy eye that just kind of wafts off over to the right, right? And it's like, do I look at your other eye or do I try to make contact with the lazy one? It's got to be the other one. And with Riot, I'm like, okay, so you're paying attention to me right now, right? Right? Yeah, like you need to fix these like 5 egregious things. And the good eye, like, guy nods and yep, yep, yep. But the eye is also like kind of sticking cattywampus off to the side, and it's like, oh yeah, but what about why don't we leave Janna and Soraka alone? They seem healthy. Like, why don't we, not care about the state that Aurelia was in, right? Or Zoe, or Camille, or any of those champions that were a fucking problem for months at a time. You know, where you at, Lazy Eye Riot? Come on, man. And then everything kind of to the left, like the opposite of where that eye is looking, nothing happens for years. And I think that's where a lot of the discontent comes from is like people settle into an identity. Like ADCs were really comfortable with what their identity is. And they feel like when you hit their base shit so hard, it's like you're not doubling down on their identity of weak early. You are creating them a new identity of useless early. And that's what they feel like is egregious. These posts that are like, oh my god, just let me play ADC, let me play it anywhere. Let me go in the jungle or mid or whatever, but Ashe or Caitlyn will never be able to play anywhere but bot lane. They can still play bot lane. Shut up. You're fine. The sky has not fallen, Chicken Little. You'll be all right, right? Like, here's the thing: suck it up. You're gonna go through a bad elo, but this is a bad time. But it's also a bad time for all ADCs. You're all comparatively weak, and nobody really has stopped playing your shit. So, suck it up, Buttercup. Yes, supports are too strong in certain areas, but that's not what the problem is. That's really not. Like the shields and shit have been a problem for since they introduced all those like huge shield plus items. Like that's been what, a year? It feels like it's been around a year. It feels like it's been around a fucking eternity. But yeah, those items super strong. And no, no, man, that's not what your problem is. That, oh my god, it's whichever team can four-man dive the bottom lane early. Yeah, I mean, no, that's not true either. Anytime you four-man dive, it leaves open two other lanes. It's gonna suck for your bot lane, and then you got to play smart into that. But yeah, but I don't know, man. I'm really curious at kind of how all this shakes out because I know Riot has to issue a response to it, but this is really a lot of crying without a lot of substance. I don't like. Yeah, there are some like a couple of building blocks there, but this is not to the level that everybody is wanting to call it, right? And back to the core mission of what Lola podcast is. If you want to get better, if you want to learn to climb, you have to play through this shit. You have to. I remember when Thresh was garbage. I remember when Blitz was garbage. And those were my two favorite champions. And I just, like, so weak. And hell, it still are pretty weak. I mean, Thresh isn't doing so hot right now, even, but not, like, to the level it was. But I played through those metas. I remember when, like, the Morganas and shit were strong, and you're playing Thresh. You're like, well, fuck. Yeah, played through it. Learned how to beat Morganas as Thresh. It made me a better player. Play through it. If you're an ADC, man, you like ADC. You like the mechanical challenges. You like, you know, being able to, like, determine the outcome of the game by dealing damage and dodging initiation, dodging engage, and being generally hard to hit and tricky as fuck, and mechanical prowess is your only true limitation. Play that fucking role. Play it. Who cares? They may play a bruiser. You know what's going to happen if they play a bruiser in your ADC? Their base stats are higher than you. They're stronger than you early. But if you don't die before level 6, you'll probably just kill the shit out of them. They can't do a lot. Well, or at least in the late game. Maybe not level 6. Bruisers are still strong at 6. I take that back. But I mean, realistically, you're gonna hit a power spike eventually, and the reason that we've taken ADCs for seasons and seasons and seasons is that they produce consistent, safe damage. Bruisers don't. So that's still there. That has not changed. That will not change. It's a role that's important. And the role is not so useless that we can afford to forsake it completely. The sky has not fallen. All right. So, with that rant out of my system, I do want to make some announcements real quick. First things first, community games are going amazingly. Like, everybody is signing up for that. And I really enjoyed it. However, we have gotten some questions about like how this works, and I've had like one guy in particular just kind of disappeared while I was trying to get him into a game. Hopefully he knows who he is without me having to call him out. But here's the mechanism. You join the server, right? The Discord server. You join that. Once you join the Discord server, there is like a sign-in sheet that says let's see, where's that? Community game check-in. that is only to say, like, look, I am here, right? I am here and I want to play. And it kind of gets who was here first. So if somebody's early, I don't want to, like, oh, who's here right now? I'm going to grab these 10 guys. Thanks. Bye. To everybody else who'd been waiting in line, right? That's your I was waiting in line. Okay. So you got your ticket that says I am number X in line. Now you want to play the game. What do? You hop in the actual Discord. There's a room called Homeroom. That's the room by which we compare the list of players and when they signed in to who actually is here and ready to play. If you're on the list but you're not in the homeroom, I don't know what you're doing. So I don't know that you're there, and so then you don't get added to the game. Because in the homeroom we're saying, hey everybody, join like custom game, LOLA Community Game 1. The password is blah. And then everybody gets in that game and it fills up. If you're not there, well then like, okay, you got a ticket to be in line and then you left line and disappeared. I don't know, man. I'm trying to get you into games, so this is how it works. That being said, we've had like 2 full games going the last couple of weeks, which is amazing. I'm gonna try to bring a little bit more energy to the shoutcast. I am really kind of. I had a rough couple of weeks and I've been exhausted, so my shoutcasting hasn't been as excited as it should be. I'm gonna try to knock that up a notch for you guys. But that being said, we've had a lot of fun. Like the games seem to be really well matched, and everybody seems to be having a really good time. And I'm seeing a lot of new faces. I just want those people to actually get in games. And if you didn't get in game one and you want to get in game two, fine. Just sit around, and be ready. Like we look at who's in the homeroom and who hasn't played yet. Those are people who get priority to game two. Obviously, Patreon members they get priority because they're actually helping us financially produce this podcast, which considering that I've like taken over the reins of it and I've been paying for the things like the Zencaster and stuff, I want to double down and the server and everything else. I want to double down on saying thank you guys. Like this would really not be possible to make this content without you anymore. Because for the longest time, Sam solo bankrolled this thing until the patrons stepped in and helped with that. And now, it makes a huge difference in kind of what we're able to do. And yeah, I'm now spending all that money to pay for server costs and to pay for things like that, and it just made it more real for me this week how much that support means. So really, thank you guys again, and I hope that doesn't sound too, whatever. I don't know, preachy or whatever, but it really helps. And thanks a bunch, guys. Appreciate you. Okay, so that being said, community games are kicking ass. Podcast usually records. We did at Thursday. We didn't this time because Old Man Fields fell asleep, and Ponderous Young Man Procrastinator and Wormlex Johnny Family disappeared to go to a reunion of the Lax family and whatever. So you got me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, hit me up. I always like to see what people's feedback are whenever I just talk without a script for what is this, 48 minutes? Wow. So, let me know what you think. This seems to be like a natural closing point. Thank you guys. I appreciate your support. Hit me up in chat. For all you people that have got coaching this last week, keep it up. Keep asking. All you got to do, make those videos. Have them ready for me to watch. Catch me when I log in or catch any of the other guys. Ponderous, Wormlax, whatever. And hit one of them up for coaching and see if we can give you some direction. I know I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and I think we made a lot of progress for a couple of people, so I really hope that helps. And yeah, I think I'm going to start recording it. And putting it up on the YouTube. So if that's something you guys are interested in, watching someone else get coached, let me know in Discord, and then I'll make that a bigger priority because I kind of want to do what I can and produce whatever resources I can to help you guys get better, because that's the mission. That's what we're here to do. So, all right. Good night, everybody.